Here we are. It's Thursday, the 7th of August, and very good morning to you, Chloe.
Morning.
A lot of stories around this morning.
Yeah.
Where would you like to begin? I mean, I don't know. I suppose HMRC and the British guilt classes probably strikes me as the most amusing story this morning. HM Revenue Customs able to log on to an online session during office hours yesterday, prompting a furious backlash. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch describing it as nonsense. This goes on all the time in Whitehall, doesn't it? You've basically got loads and loads of woke people with nothing better to do than go, I know, let's have a seminar on how awful it is to be British, and, you know, whether you're white or whether you're black or whether you're guilty or whether, you know, what are they doing?
I mean, complete waste of time. I mean, no good private company would use their resources having staff during their working hours going to some seminar on the guilt of being British.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
And then we also, so you've got HMRC where you can't get them to answer the phone.
No.
They really should be prioritising that rather than this, right? And then you've got the NHS, where apparently we lost 26,000 NHS working hours to people attending woke events, which also cost a lot of money to run. And it's all this same sort of stuff like, guilt of being British, white privilege, DEI, transphobia, this and that, right? I mean, it's just a complete and utter waste.
It really is.
And when the taxpayer's paying for it, I mean, as I said, a good private company would never do this. But if a private company does decide to do this stuff, I think, fine, they want to waste their money, that's okay. But when it's taxpayers' money and you can't get an adequate service from them, they won't answer the phone and you can't get an NHS appointment, it's just taking us
It's mad, isn't it? This thing that they had yesterday was the Guilt of Being British listening circle from 11 a.m. until noon, run by the HMRC Race Network. I didn't know there was one of those. It was billed as a powerful, interactive and reflective listening circle exploring the emotional complexity of being South Asian and British. Covering topics including the emotional weight of colonial history and inherited trauma. Have you got any inherited trauma?
No, I don't
think I have either. My
although
parents were from
apparently
Scotland.
you've got epigenetics, and if your mother is, say, stressed while she's carrying you as a baby, that can get passed down to you.
Yeah, my mother, I think, wasn't stressed in particular because in those days people didn't get stressed, you know, they just got on with it. But my parents were Scottish, so I might be able to claim some kind of colonial, you know, backlash in my previous life from when, you know, England and Scotland were at war. Perhaps the Battle of Culloden or something like that. I could go, no, I'm definitely traumatised by that historically.
Yeah, and, nowadays young lot are stressed out if the train is 2 minutes late or whatnot.
I'm stressed out I have to go to work. I have to get out of the house. I mean,
oh no, they're saying I have to go into work. I can't. I mean, these civil servants, what they were going to... Have they gone on strike about this, having to go in 2 days a week?
Well, yeah, they don't want to go in more than 2 days a week.
I know, they think that that's horrible to have to go in for half of the week.
I know, absolutely ridiculous. Earlier this year, a report by the Commons Public Accounts Committee found that HMRC answered just 66.4% of customers' calls to advisors, well below the target of 85%. Performance has reached an all-time low, apparently, in HMRC. Around 40,000 people who had been on hold for more than 70 minutes were cut off without an explanation. We've all had that, you know.
I was on the verge of tears the other day trying to get hold of Scottish Power, and they just kept saying, "Oh, we'll direct you to someone," and then hanging up on me and having to start again.
Happens a lot, doesn't it?
There's nothing worse than having to wait on the phone. And I mean, Rachel Reeves, she's got a lot of money to find, as we're now finding out. There's apparently a 50 billion black hole. Maybe it would be a good idea for the tax service to answer the phone to people who are trying to pay their taxes. Yes,
because then they could get more money in, couldn't they? As opposed to just announcing they're putting more taxes on. Because on the front page of the Telegraph, Starmer's pledge on tax thrown into chaos. He was out and about yesterday, and we'll have a couple of clips from him. I think we've got one here. Asked about tax rises in the autumn budget. Here we go.
In the autumn, we'll get the full forecasts and obviously set out our budget. The focus will be living standards, and we will build on what we've done in the first year of this government. We've stabilised the economy, and that means interest rates have been cut now 4 times. And for anybody watching this on a mortgage, that makes a huge difference on a monthly basis to how much they pay. In the first year, we've raised wages as well, both in the private sector plus the minimum wage, which means people have got a bit more money coming into their pocket. And so at this stage, that'll all be set out in the budget, but the focus will very much be on living standards and making sure people feel better off. Some of the figures that have been put out are not figures that I recognise, but the budget won't be until later in the year, and that's why we'll have the forecast then, and we'll set out our plans. What's really important is that I'm very clear about our focus, which will be on living standards and making sure that people feel better off, partly because more money is coming into their pocket in the first place through better wages, and partly because we're bearing down on costs like mortgages and other costs to everyday families.
Everyday families now? Is that, what's an everyday family? Hello, I'm from an everyday family. The focus, I'm very clear about this. He literally spoke for about a minute and a bit there and said nothing. There's nothing in that, is there? Focus.
It's just babble and it's just lies. I mean,
it's no rubbish. He doesn't recognise the £50 billion black hole, because if the £22 billion black hole was the Tories' fault, even though it didn't exist, whose fault is the £50 billion black hole? Because that's quite significantly more than 22, seems to me.
It's definitely Rachel Reeves' fault, and we all know it. They can't keep parroting the same line that it's the Tories' fault any longer. And I mean, him saying there, oh, the focus is going to be on raising living standards. Right. First of all, that's very vague on purpose.
Yeah, very vague. Also, but people are not better off, right?
No.
He gave public sector workers a pay rise, so they're probably better off, but everybody else is worse off.
I mean, he's saying that, oh, well, we've raised the minimum wage, which means people have got more money in their pockets. And I'm like, hang on, you've got companies, you know, especially companies who hire a lot of minimum wage staff, like, say, a pub or a cafe or a restaurant, right? Yeah. They're having to fire a load of people because they've got a load more money to make up from the national insurance hike and the big hike in the national minimum wage, right? That means that there are fewer jobs going around. And there's another story on our list somewhere today where you've got some polling done of young people who are all saying we don't think that the situation is going to get any better. We think there's no hope of getting a job. Yeah. And they say we're going to get Britain working, right? How are you meant to get Britain working if all of the companies are currently firing people and not hiring anymore because they've got this huge national insurance bill and a big minimum wage hike to factor into their costs?
And also they're worried now about what's going to happen in the autumn, because even though he says we're going to wait till the autumn to decide, which our focus was going to be on, but the point is that nobody's investing in business because they don't know what the tax regime is going to be like come October and November. So they don't want to spend any money. They don't want to speculate about the fact that there could be a worse state of the economy. And as far as interest rates coming down, there's nothing to do with Starmer. There's everything to do with the Bank of England. They might be reducing them today, apparently. But at the end of the day, that is outside of the government's control. They haven't stabilised the economy, as he says. The economy is in the absolute crapper.
I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth what he said, right? He is taking credit and saying we've stabilised the economy, we've done well with the economy, therefore the interest rate is being cut. It's the complete opposite, actually. The reason why they're cutting the interest rate is because the economy hasn't grown.
It's
like Rachel Reeves said, it's stagnated. I mean, we had 2 months of negative growth, right? That is why the rate is being cut, because they've done so poorly with the economy that they desperately need to do something to start boosting economic growth.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's get a better view of Keir Starmer, and now that we know what he means about everyday families, he was out and about with some kids yesterday talking about music, believe it or not.
God.
Hello. Are you doing that from memory?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently music's a big part of his life in the sense that he loves it. He's never mentioned music in any interview I've ever read about him, right? The one thing he has said is he doesn't have a favourite book, right? He doesn't have a favourite movie.
Because he's never read one?
Well, I don't know. I wonder if he's got a favourite song. What do you think his favourite song would be?
Ooh. I don't think he has much musical knowledge.
Row the Boat was that kid was playing to him.
Do you remember when he put out that tweet saying... Do you remember when he put out that tweet saying how many great...
Row the boat gently across the channel. Merrily, merrily, merrily. I mean, this guy, you can't make this stuff up.
I mean, it's so... Every single video he puts out... He's
supposed to be a father, right? You know, those of us who are parents usually can identify quite well with children and have a little chat. He's like having a kind of conversation with a child like he's an adult.
I know.
Have you done that from memory?
I mean, he looks and sounds so awkward there. I don't know what's funnier to watch, that or do you remember when Rishi Sunak went into a school and he said to this group of kids, "I just love Coke. I'm a massive Coke addict." Right. And then he went, "Oh, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola."
Right. Yeah, amazing. And it was like the time he went to. Remember, we went to the homeless sort of food bank place and asked the guy what he did for a living. And the guy was like queuing up to get some breakfast.
I'm homeless, mate.
Yeah, he was homeless. And he goes, "What do you do for a living?" I'm homeless. Anyway, so here's your challenge for this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have some Keir Starmer songs. What would be Keir Starmer's favourite song? I'm going with Row, Row, Row the Boat, because obviously that's quite current in terms of the migrants. We can talk about that in a minute. We'll take a little break because the Mail have done a great job on day one of One In, One Out. They actually sent a reporter over
it's going really well, isn't it?
Is it Gravelines? Gravelines? Anyway, they sent something over. There's a dinghy rush hour now, where it's a bit like the Bakerloo line at 7 o'clock in the morning. Where there's one going after another, and you've got a pretty good chance of getting in. Anyway, 16 minutes past 6. Chloe Dobbs is here. I'll be back after this. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 21 minutes, very nearly past 6. This is, of course, Thursday. It is August the 8th, August the 7th, I should say, sorry. Chloe Dobbs is here. Some great stories around this morning, all sorts of different things going on. We're asking you for songs for Keir Starmer, one from Dave for AC/DC's Highway to Hell. Yeah, that'll do. I'm still going with Row, Row, Row the Boat, which I quite like. But let's have a look at the front page of The Sun this morning, because the BBC are right back in the deep doo-doo again, because I don't understand why they've decided to rehash MasterChef. Having got rid of Greg Wallace and having got rid of John Turode, they've now got the problem they've got is they've got a programme that they had in the can, and they've had to edit it apparently so heavily. And the front page of the Daily Star is calling it Faster Chef. As in farce. They're saying MasterChef's new series has been branded as shambles due to the heavy editing after the sackings of Greg Wallace and John Turode. It's an absolute mess, apparently, because I suppose they've been so careful not to have any banter in it for fear of being, criticised, that they've sort of ruined the show.
I know.
What's the point of doing it?
I mean, nobody's actually watching it just for the sake of the cooking. People watch it for entertainment, right? There've got to be some jokes in there, else it's no fun.
Exactly. That's the whole point of it, right?
Of course, if there was a joke in there that was deeply inappropriate, then of course, fine, edit that out, no problem. But just, normal day-to-day banter that you would see on a cooking show, they've got to leave it in, else nobody's going to watch it. Else they should just not bother airing it.
I don't know why I saw it, but yesterday on social media there was a sort of slightly cringy Greg Wallace video that he put out of him and his wife, who were celebrating 9 years together, having a picnic, and they were at somewhere like Hever Castle, and he sort of panned around and said, "Isn't it lovely?" And it was just this lake, and it was all a bit sad. It was kind of like,
Have you seen what his new career is now?
No.
So he's got a health and fitness website, and you can buy health and fitness courses and online coaching.
Okay.
And he keeps showing off his six-pack.
He's obviously got some kind of exhibitionist side to him, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Which is a bit odd.
Yeah. But that's his new job.
Yeah, but that's not enough, you see, because there's not just one story that MasterChef airs with the axe to Wallace and Turode. BBC bosses are also talking about an unnamed female star on a different show who's been reprimanded for showing a colleague an explicit picture, supposedly of some kind of genitalia, which apparently upset the person that was shown the picture, so much so that she burst into tears.
Oh, dear.
So there's one scandal. Then it turns out that Charlie State, who's also on BBC Breakfast, is apparently going to be probed. He's going to be the subject of an investigation into allegations of bullying. I mean, the BBC Breakfast show sounds like it's a complete nest of vipers. You've got the editor of the show, whose name I forget, who doesn't speak to either Naga Manchetti or to Charlie State. Charlie State and Naga Manchetti apparently don't speak to each other, and yet they have to put out a show together. It's like you and I sitting here without actually being able to talk to each other, just looking at the camera and saying, and then next, let's talk about, what's going on at the BBC, without actually having any interaction at all. It's weird, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I guess because they don't have adverts, they don't have to sit awkwardly in so many breaks, right?
I suppose.
As that would be very awkward if they just have to sit there not speaking to each other during the advert breaks.
There have been cases of that on other shows in various different arenas. But, it makes you wonder at the BBC, what do? They all sort of send dirty pictures to each other all the time.
I know, it's just one thing after another. And I mean, you think it's bad enough them fitting 3 different scandals onto the front of this. But I mean, that's just a highlight reel. We've had the whole Bob Villain saga. We've had the Gaza documentary. We've had all sorts going on, right? We just had a story yesterday. They're in trouble because they gave 1,200 quid to a smuggler.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean...
Yeah, they managed to...
It's quite questionable whether that's worth it to get the footage, but still, it was causing a lot of drama for them. I mean, it just never ends.
It doesn't, does it?
Of course, we've had Hugh Edwards, and that rumbled on for a long time.
Well, that's still going on.
We had Gary Lineker. It never ends.
No, it doesn't end. We've still got... the Hugh Edwards story hasn't finished yet, really, because he's still been given a load of money that's supposed to be giving back. And the last time I saw Tim Davie in front of a select committee, he was basically saying, oh, yeah, we haven't got the money back yet. And they said to him, well, what are you going to do if he doesn't give it to you back? And, we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. So, you know, it's taxpayers' money. It's about 300,000 or 400,000 quid that he was paid while he was on suspension, knowing that he was going to be charged with quite a serious criminal offence. And they've asked for the money back, and he's just sitting on it. And so it's like, well, what are you going to do? I
mean, the really stupid thing that the BBC did is when they wrote up their contract with Hugh Edwards, they forgot to put in the clause, which is pretty standard, which says if you bring the association into disrepute, then you won't get all this big redundancy pay if you leave, right? Yeah. Apparently they remembered to put that in for Gary Lineker's contract, but for Hugh Edwards, they apparently just forgot to put that in the contract. Right. So they put in this very awkward position where they basically have to give him a load of money. Yeah, and also he's got a great pension to boot. Let's go back to Starmer. I think he's probably doing all right. I've just spotted this, actually. Apparently Lady Starmer had a £650 freebie day out at Ascot. This is in Eden Confidential, the Daily Mail. Keir Starmer has disclosed her attendance at a horse racing event last month thanks to a gift from Ascot Racecourse. That's nice, isn't it? You ever been invited to Ascot Racecourse by the Ascot Racecourse people? No, sadly £650 worth of tickets from the Berkshire Racecourse. Apparently the entry says, name of donor, Ascot Authority, Holdings Limited, amount of donation or nature and value of donation in kind, tickets and hospitality for 3 family members, 650 quid. Lovely. Isn't that nice? It must be nice, wasn't it, to be able to just live high on the hog. Somebody else pays for it, you know, tell everybody. And of course, well, that's socialism for you.
We just heard Keir Starmer
everyone to pay for things for them.
We just heard Keir Starmer talking about what was the phrase about families? You know, everyday families. I don't think an everyday family gets to go to Ascot. Do some families not exist every day? What is he trying to say with that? It just makes no sense whatsoever. And they clearly just can't resist the freebies, and the scandals just keep on coming. And they do. Absolutely laughable. You would have thought after the whole Lord Ali saga, they would have said, right, guys, let's just not do it. No more freebies. Yeah. It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the scandal. And even if you can have a nice day out. If you want to go to Ascot, just pay for it. Just insist that you pay for it. I'm sure that she's got 650 quid probably. I would think so. Lady Starmer lying around that she can use. And then, of course, we've got the... Do you think she threw a sickie from her very important job at the NHS in order to go to Ascot, or do you think she maybe took a day off? Well, I wouldn't put it past her if she called a fake sickie on top of this, because they're not very good at avoiding scandal, are they? And then we've got the other scandal, haven't we? Oh, yeah, this is great. This is on the front page of the I newspaper. Labour's Minister for Homelessness, who's somebody I didn't really know existed, Rushanara Ali, apparently owns some property, right, because she's the Minister for Homelessness, but she's kicked the tenants out of the property in order to hike the rent and get more money in. So she's literally creating people, making people homeless. And not just a little bit. She's put the rent up 700 quid. £4,000 a month the house goes for. Yeah. She's got a fancy London townhouse, which just shows you how... Another champagne socialist. Not so working class. Yeah. The cabinet of this country are. Yeah. I mean, we've been told that they're going to try and fill Whitehall with a load of working class people by only allowing working class people to apply for the civil service. I think Labour, they're trying to combat all of these stories to show, oh yes, we are the party of the working class, we are the party of the working class, when they just really Ascot Racecourse, houses worth £4,000 a month. It's not really much of a working class picture. I know, and this homelessness minister, she's insisting that she didn't evict them so that she could raise the rent. She evicted them so that she could sell the house. Oh, that's all right, then. And then, when conveniently the house didn't sell, she then put the rent up by 700 quid. Which, of course, is against Labour's new rules, because Labour's making it illegal for landlords to relist a property for higher rent until 6 months after the eviction, which she didn't do. Yeah. So she's not even adhering to their own policy. I mean, she can say, oh, that hasn't come into law yet, but it is she could say that. It is quite hypocritical when you are going against what your government is bringing in because they think it's such a great idea. I know, absolutely extraordinary. Front page of the Telegraph's got a little nib on this one. It's on page 4. At least 200 people living in asylum seeker hotels have been charged with criminal offences this year without police revealing their immigration status. This takes you back to the Nuneaton story of the 2 men who have been charged with the alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl. Initially, the Warwickshire police told counsellors not to reveal the fact that they were Afghanistan men and that they were asylum seekers and they were living in a migrant hotel. And it now turns out that there's 200 more of these similar cases where court records have not revealed or the police have not revealed that these people have been living in hotels. 211 people have been charged with a combined 425 offences. Of these, 109 were violent offences, 44 sexual offences, including 4 counts of alleged rape. I mean, is it any wonder that people are out demonstrating outside these hotels?
I know, and it just makes you think, how many stories are there that we haven't heard about? We've been horrified by the few stories that we have had, where they have revealed the identity or at least the ethnicity and the migrant background of the people involved. But how many more are they keeping secret from us because they don't want us to know? And I mean, if it was the case that these 211 people who have been charged, they're non-stories because they've just stolen a packet of crisps from the local shop, not good, but you know, clearly from the numbers here, these are people who have actually allegedly done quite serious things. 109 violent offences and 44 sexual offences. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if these numbers here are only half of the story, because the way I understand that journalists are figuring out who people are who have been charged or who have been to court is basically they look at court records against the list of only about half of the migrant hotels that we know of, because the Home Office won't tell us where all the migrant hotels are. Exactly. So it's quite difficult to gather all of the data
it is.
On this.
You've literally got to go through case by case and see what the address of the assailant or the accused is, and if it's a hotel, it's more than likely to be a migrant hotel. But you've still got to double check that. But you're right. Hundreds and hundreds more probably are going to be found to be involved in all sorts of nefarious activity. Meanwhile, over in France, pages 6 and 7 of the Daily Mail, they've got the thin blue line of gendarmes. They've got a great graphic where it calls the dinghy rush hour, because yesterday, which of course the first day of the one-in, one-out policy, which has been roundly, completely and utterly, ridiculed, because it just doesn't work, clearly doesn't work, because hundreds of people came in yesterday and nobody went out. Right, the dinghy rush hour starts at 7:15. Dinghy 1 drops onto the beach from the west and picks up 2 groups of young men. 7:20, 5 minutes later, dinghy 2 heads up the canal from inland. Already full, it heads for England. And then dinghy 3, about half an hour later, drops onto the beach from the west and picks up young men and families. We've got pictures of everybody going happily across. They've got some police standing, watching them all leaving, sort of waving them away. And so clearly, this is on Gravelines Beach near Calais. Clearly, nobody's told the migrants that it's one in, one out. They're still coming in their hundreds and they're not leaving. Yeah,
I mean, the chances of being kicked out are so slim, and they might know or they might not know that they're probably all going to be able to put in all these human rights claims and whatnot. And this...
Well, all the people who came yesterday are probably already in a hotel, aren't they?
Yeah, well, exactly. We don't know exactly what's happening with these people. If they're being detained for potential deportation, where are they being taken? Are they being put in a plush hotel with everyone else, and they might be told later, you've got to leave?
This is a question I was asking. I wrote a piece in The Sun yesterday, and I said, where are they going to be putting them? And there's no detention centres that we know of that they can put them in. And how long are they going to be there for? And when are they going to be sent back? All of these questions are unanswered.
Exactly. I mean, they've clearly just rushed this out. They've seen there are all these protests happening at migrant hotels, and they thought, we've got to do something quickly, so we better just get this across the line and say that it's starting this week. But actually, they haven't got a plan. We don't know where in France they're going to go. We're now wondering clearly they're going to be able to make human rights claims. And we've got...
So they're all going to do that, aren't they?
We've got Lisa Nandy apparently saying, oh, well, they can do that over in France. We can send them to France first, and then they can have their human rights claims tested while they're there. But the French are saying, no, you can't send anyone until they've got no outstanding human rights
And also
claims.
The French can apparently refuse to take them back. Because it's all on a case-by-case basis. They've got no real agreement at all that means a fag end. It doesn't
I also
mean anything.
Absolutely do not trust the French to send us good people. Apparently we're going to be sent people who have family ties in Britain.
Yeah, well, they've all got family ties in Britain. You just have to ask them, have you got family ties in Britain? Yes. Okay, in you come. That's about as stringent as it is.
Exactly. What are they going to do? Give them a DNA test or something?
They're
they
not
can
going
just say,
to.
oh, yeah, I know my mate Abdul. He can...
Yeah, he lives in Wolverhampton. I was with him the other day. Chris Philp, meanwhile, was out in the Channel yesterday channeling, if you'll pardon the expression, Nigel Farage. Check this out.
So the government announced yesterday they had a new deal with France supposed to stop boats crossing the Channel. So I thought I'd come out here and see what's going on. I'm on the English Channel, probably about 7 or 8 miles off Calais. And behind me you can see a French warship. And just next to it is a dinghy full of illegal immigrants. The French making absolutely no attempt whatsoever to stop it. They've been shadowing it for the last 3 hours. It's about 2 hours from British waters. They're going to be arriving in the UK later on today. So quite clearly the government's claims to be fixing this with their new deal are not working. The evidence is right behind me.
Yeah, the evidence is right behind him and right in front of him as well. I mean, it's never going to stop until they stop giving people incentives to come. That's the bottom line. I mean, we've been argue about this till the cows come home. But it's certainly, whatever happened yesterday didn't make one jot of difference. And if anything, probably more people came than normal because it was quite a nice day.
Yeah, I mean, there are some very basic things that they could do before even thinking about some complicated deal with France. Like, maybe don't give them all fancy hotels and PlayStations and bouncy castle trips and cars with 50 quid a week to spend on, which you can go take to go gambling. I mean, we were talking on Plank about all these NHS free passes that they're getting, where they get even more than us Brits, and they get their travel to and from, the doctors paid for, they get free contact lenses, free wigs. We've heard that Wandsworth Council have done a deal with the Lime bikes and the Forest bikes, so that asylum seekers can get all these cheap rides on the bikes. And the reason why Wandsworth Council wanted to do that is to make it easier for migrants to travel to their 3 days out, to go to the cinema, to go to bowling and the theatre and whatever else. I mean, why wouldn't you want to come to Britain? I don't blame the migrants. If I was in France and I saw what was waiting for me in Britain, I'd come. Yeah, well, they are, and they obviously have, and they're probably watching this as well while we're at it. Let's remind ourselves of what Keir Starmer said to Donald Trump about migration.
Well, I think we've been discussing irregular, illegal migration is a huge issue in both our countries. In the United Kingdom, it is a real cause for concern, and that's why we must bear down on it. In all its aspects, upstream, across Europe, where a lot of ours comes into through northern France, across the Channel, working with our allies, with our colleagues to break the gangs that are actually running this trade.
Bear down, that's obviously one of his new phrases. He said that in 2 separate interviews that we've got of him bearing down on something. Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, you can give an image of him bearing down on something. I don't really want to think about it, to be honest. Anyway, listen, it's 6:36. We've got loads more to talk about, including a fifth of doctors are apparently sick of Britain. Well, how about we're sick of doctors? How about that? This is Morning Glory. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:39. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Chloe Dobbs is here as well. I've been asking you for songs for Keir Starmer. Here's one from Peter in Croydon. He says, how about Rodney songs? How about Cry Me a River? Or I Can't Feel the Economy Tanking in the Air Tonight? Oh, Lord. Another one from Mark. Hughes Corporation, don't rock the boat. Don't tip the boat over. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of boat references, I suspect. We've already had one from Jim in the Netherlands, who says, here's another suggestion. My ship is coming in by the Walker Brothers. His ship is not coming in. Well, it's coming in full of people, I suppose. Keep these coming. We've got loads of them going on. Let's talk about Kemi Badenoch, shall we, this morning. She's done an interview with the BBC, bizarrely, in which she reveals that she used to believe in God, but her belief in God was killed after reading the story of Josef Fritzl, who was that ghastly, incredible, horrible story from Germany, I think it was. Josef Fritzl, the guy who kept one of his daughters in a basement and repeatedly raped her, and she had several of his children, and it was one of the worst stories of all time. She says, I believed that there was a God, and I would have defined myself as a Christian apologist, always arguing with people about why there was a God. But in 2008, this story about Josef Fritzl and his daughter, who was locked in a cellar for 24 years, that killed it. I mean, I kind of get what she's saying, but it's kind of a weird thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very old story, very strange of her to come out with this just now. I mean, she clearly seems to be... It feels like she needs to talk about her identity a lot at the moment, because she was saying the other day about how she no longer feels like she's a Nigerian, she doesn't identify with Nigeria anymore, and now she's come out with this saying, I don't identify as a Christian. I mean, maybe she's just run out of things to say when it comes to politics, so this is what she's coming out with. Yeah, maybe. Clearly the boredom of summer recess has got to her. I think it's a bit early as well, because they've got quite another 4 or 5 weeks to go before it's I mean, maybe she's fed up of every single time she makes a point of, this is what the Tories would do. Everyone says, well, you have 14 years, guys, you didn't sort it out. They have got a point, haven't they? Yeah. Because that is so now she's talking about other matters as like her personal identity.
Because Chris Philp out on the channel yesterday, you know, making out like he's Nigel Farage, basically. You know, he was in the last government. He was Minister for Justice at the very least. I think he was in the Home Office at one point. You know, he was in a position to do something about the migrants, and he didn't. You know, it's all very well for them, but they all say now, the Tory narrative now is, oh, but, you know, I wasn't in that particular part of the government, or I did say that we should be doing things, but they didn't get done. Or in Robert Jenrick's case, he says, well, I resigned from the government because they weren't doing enough about migration. The fact is, you were still part of a failed attempt to stop people coming here.
Yeah, that's the thing. People aren't buying it, and the polls clearly show it. The polls clearly show they are not convinced by the Tories' new promises to turn the country around. It doesn't matter if you change the person in a certain cabinet role or as leader of the party. I mean, I think we've heard Kemi Badenoch say about 1 million times now, oh, we're under new leadership now, and things are going to be different.
Under new management, like it makes any difference. It really doesn't, does it? There's a funny story on the front page of The Sun, which is not anything to do with migrants, nothing to do with politics, I'm pleased to say. Thousands of bingo players are fuming after thinking they won one big and a £1.6 million prize pot, only for it to be voided due to a glitch. They were playing online gala bingo, and they all thought they'd scooped sums of up to £10,000 each, but found out the winnings never made it into their bank account because of some error. There's nothing worse than thinking you've won money when you haven't.
I know. I mean, it's a pretty sad state of affairs when you think, oh, Rachel Reeves has taken all of my money, and now the bingo apps have taken all of my money as well that I was entitled to.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, could you imagine that? I mean, people are feeling pretty dire in this country at the moment, I think it's fair to say. Not much hope. And then you get this one glimmer of hope when you think, that's it. I've had my moment.
Grand.
I've won 10 grand. On my bingo app, that's it, that's going to turn this ship around, life's looking up now, and then you find out, oh, sorry, you can't have it because of a technical glitch.
And it says here that the players were being awarded thousands of pounds instead of just a few pounds in the game, which cost 1 pence per ticket to play. Jackie Norrish, 41, thought she'd bagged £9,599 from multiple victories, but she then got an email saying her account had been incorrectly credited.
I mean, presumably some of these
Hopefully
people...
she didn't spend any of it before she got it.
Presumably some of these people who have lost out on their 10 grand will try and sue Gala Bingo to try and get their money.
I don't think they can. I mean, there's probably all sorts of small print where you play these games.
Yeah, it depends what the terms and conditions say. But I mean, I'd be pretty peeved off if I won 10 grand.
Especially if you'd gone and spent 2 of it before actually getting it or something. But I suspect that's not what's happened here. A fifth of NHS doctors are sick of Britain, it says on the front page of the Times. 1 in 5 say they are considering quitting or moving abroad in pursuit of better pay and working conditions. I'm sick of hearing from these doctors, right? They spend, 7 years training to be a doctor. Do you think at any point during that 7 years they might actually talk to a few doctors and say, what's it like being a doctor? And then the doctor can say, oh, it's actually quite good, or all the paying conditions are terrible, or you might not like it, so why don't you just give up now? You know, how can you train to do something that you've chosen to do, and then when you get to do it, you go, oh, I don't like it, I'm thinking of moving to Australia.
I guess
off then.
I mean, it takes so long to qualify as a doctor that I guess there are some people who, when they start off their journey of qualifying as a doctor, they think, oh, by the time I finally qualify, the NHS will be sorted out. It won't be a total mess. It won't be a stressful job. But surprise, surprise, the world isn't full of sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
And it still is a total mess. And I sympathise with them to some degree. I can understand that.
I really don't, because they know what they're getting into. I mean, if you want to be a doctor, you've trained to be a doctor. It takes a long time.
But you can use that qualification in another country, right?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it says here that
I can see the appeal of going to Australia. It's also quite the hip, cool thing for young people to go and move.
It is, but of course,
Australia.
curiously, an awful lot of the people, for example, the junior doctors who say they want to go and move to Australia, but want to work in a kind of a national health service, what they don't realise, or maybe they do, is that Australia has a mixed system. So actually, if you go and work in Australia and you've got a kind of, diametrically opposed view to private medicine, well, you'll be working in it, because that's the way the system works, you know. But it says here, an annual survey of a representative sample of 5,000 doctors found that 2/3 of them are considering moving abroad, and they want higher pay. Again, you know what you're getting paid, you know the job that you're going for, and you know that, I don't know many poor doctors. I talk to some doctors who say they're stressed out and they work too hard and they have to work 5 or 6 days a week, and it's all burning them out. But, they're not poor, are they?
Yeah, they get paid all right. I can understand that they might have some frustration that they're like, this is a job that I've spent 10 years qualifying for and I've got all this student debt. I should be on big bucks. But at the same time, if you choose to become a doctor, I'm sure pay comes into it to some degree, but these doctors will say, oh, I've chosen to become a doctor because I want to save lives. They're doing it for charitable reasons. They're doing it to help people as opposed to making big money. Yet they are willing to strike again and again and again after having the biggest pay rise in the public sector. Those strikes, they kill people.
They do.
They do. They genuinely do.
They do.
And more people are going to die. How can you...
And the NHS admitted this when the last lot of strikes happened, when they had the 5-day strike just recently.
Exactly. I mean, that to me just seems so selfish, OK? We need to... Maybe at one point in the future there will be a pay rise on the table for you, but we need to grow the economy first before we're going to have any more spare coffers in the bank to give you.
But they've all had pay rises.
I know, they were very lucky to get one when the economy was in such a dire state of affairs. They were very lucky. But you give people an inch and they take a mile, and the greedy lot have come back for more.
That's the problem.
At the expense of people's lives.
Everyday families will say, you know, like ordinary working people would say, you know, they're doing pretty well. They're doing a lot better than we are.
Yeah.
You know, they've had more of a pay rise than we've had.
Exactly. If you've got someone who's earning minimum wage, who's struggling to pay their bills, who's struggling to put food on the table for their kids, finding out now, on top of all the stress I've got in my life, I can't get my doctor's appointment or my operation has been cancelled because someone who's earning way more than me and who's just had a way bigger pay rise than any of us could ever dream of is on the picket lines again.
Is now on the picket line. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Let's get a voice note from Steve.
Hey Mike, Steve from Yorkshire. Songs for Keir Starmer. Things can only get better, can only get better.
Yeah, and that was a song from a long time ago, which was the theme song, wasn't it, of Tony Blair's government, Reeves. I'm afraid. Got a couple of suggestions from one from Glenn in Leeds and one from Olivia. How about We Are Sailing by Rod Stewart, and another one from Olivia, Thieves Like Us from New Order. That's not bad, is it? Morning, Mike and Chloe. We've had enough of these illegals invading us. This is going too far now. We can't rely on the government to protect us. I fear what will break out, especially if they're put in HMOs. This is just not fair. It's infuriating. God help us. And that's from Michelle. So many people really, really upset with this government. We've got more to do. We'll play some Donald Trump coming up in a minute, because he was talking yesterday not only about this possible meeting he's got coming up with Vladimir Putin and with Volodymyr Zelensky, but also about Apple coming back to America and about Jeffrey Epstein as well. It's all coming next. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:52. We've got some great songs coming in. How about The Final Countdown by Europe, says John in Carmarthen, or indeed Anarchy in the UK. Steve from Middlesbrough says Chris Brea's On the Beach is one of our illustrious imbeciles' favourite songs. And what about Keir's song now, The Smiths, Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now, says Paul in Bournemouth. That's not bad. Let's get a voice note from Glyn.
Morning, Mike. Great show as always. It's Glyn from Lancashire. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't want to feel better off. I actually want to be better off. Get Starmer out now. Thanks. Speak soon.
Yeah. Are you one from an everyday family? That's the big question, isn't it? Let's have a look at Donald Trump. Yesterday, he was asked about a potential meeting with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky.
Well, there's a very good prospect that they will. And we haven't determined where, but we had some very good talks with President Putin today. And there's a very good chance that we could be ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
And if there isn't a meeting very soon, I think there's some suggestion that some more sanctions will kick in, I think on Friday, if it hasn't been done by then, but we'll see. He was also asked yesterday about a secret meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, and there's a slight colourful language warning coming up here.
Vice President Vance hosting a gathering this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation.
Is he working on what?
Is he hosting some kind of gathering of top advisors this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
I don't know. I could ask you that question. I don't know of it, but I think here's the man right here.
I saw it reported today, and it's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country, and that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bullshit, okay?
There goes the President of the United States of America, you know, Yesterday he was on the roof of the White House shouting at people in the Rose Garden who were asking him questions. Absolutely unbelievable.
That was hilarious.
Really funny. And finally, do you remember he was trying to get Apple to come back from China? We'll talk about China in a minute. To say, you need to come back and invest in the United States of America. It looks like it's finally happened. Have a look at this.
Oh, there you are. Hello, fellas. I missed you. Today, Apple is announcing that it will invest $600 billion, that's with a B, in the United States over the next 4 years. That's $100 billion more than they were originally going to invest. And this is the largest investment Apple has ever made in America and anywhere else. And it's just an honor to have you. As you know, Apple's been an investor in other countries a little bit. I won't say which ones, but a couple. And they're coming home. $600 billion. It's the biggest there is. About $17 trillion coming into the United States, which is more than ever before. That's never even come close. There's never been anything like it. Even you, that's even a lot of money for you. Oh, there you are. Hello, fellas. I missed you. Today, Apple.
So that was Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, who obviously has succumbed to Donald Trump's charms. And isn't it great? I mean, the American economy is going really well because of all the investment that's going into it, because of Trump's tariff policies, which were apparently going to ruin the world's economy. None of that came true. All the economists who predicted that have gone very quiet. And so, he wins from a big result against China, really, as well. And China's in the news here, aren't they? Because of Angela Rayner's likelihood of giving them permission to build this huge embassy in Tower Hamlets.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, $600 billion, huge amount of money.
Yeah.
I mean, Rachel Reeves could only dream of that kind of money coming into the UK.
She must be sitting there weeping.
All the investors are running away from the UK, and they'll all be going to US, Dubai, and elsewhere. So that's definitely a big win for Donald Trump. But on to Angela Rayner. The Chinese, it looks like they may be up to some dodgy spying operations.
Yes. No, really? You think?
They don't want to show us the plans. I think they want planning permission to make some changes to their embassy.
Yes.
But they don't want to actually show us what it's going to look like and what they want to do. So there's this big worry that they're just going to have a big espionage.
Yeah, and they're going to have some sort of basement bunker type scenario going on. Nobody knows what they're going to do down there. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that this government really has, at least to now, very much underestimated the Chinese and their espionage. Right. And they don't want to upset the Chinese because Ed Miliband wants to buy all their wind turbines and solar panels and wants to buddy up to the Chinese. But all meanwhile, we're being told by security services that MPs, for example, can't have a chit-chat whilst they're walking around St James's Park because the Chinese have hidden all these microphones in the hedges to spy on people's conversations, apparently in the tubes and all sorts.
Well, we've also been told, haven't we, if you've got a Chinese electric car, basically it's not going to be allowed to be parked near any Department of Defence building.
Because that's listening to you and that's spying on you.
It's literally like a mobile...
Didn't they tell the king he needed to get rid of his...
Well, it's like a mobile microphone.
Yeah.
It basically records everything. And if that's the case, then why on earth are we allowing them to be even sold in this country?
I know.
If the car is going around spying...
And so many people have TikTok on their phones, which they just press accept on the terms without reading them.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, their spying operation is huge. They are desperate to gather as much data about the West and I guess help plot our downfall best they can. Yet we buddy up to them and we say, oh, we'll buy all your wind turbines, we'll buy your solar panels.
And also Labour ministers in their droves keep going to China and keep visiting China. So I think this is the country that most ministers have been to out of all the other countries in the world. So there we are.
Yeah, and it's funny, when they're on the opposition benches, they like to criticise the Tories for visiting and talking to countries that are, a bit dodgy.
Less than friendly, yeah, absolutely right. Chloe, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We're nearly at the end of the hour. A few more songs for you. Starmer is a football fan, says Paula from Salford. So how about that football chant, you don't know what you're doing? That's a good one. Cliff says, how about Go Now from the Moody Blues? Or The Man Who Sold the World. Who Are You? Never mind, you're in anyway. A Nowhere Man by the Beatles. That's not bad either.